What's up, Internet, and welcome to the YieldTomato Gaming Channel. And today, I am going to tell you why I chose to cancel my Final Fantasy 15 review. I had been working on this for quite some time. Over the course of a year or so, I was playing it, writing, editing, and all kinds of stuff like that, getting everything together, and I ultimately chose to cancel my review because I didn't feel that I was going to be able to judge it appropriately based on the way it presented itself, if that makes any sense. The game's opening line, the very first thing you see when you start the game is a sentence. One sentence. And it says, "A Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers." That is a very high bar to set. And when I'm reviewing a game, I try to look at it in the respect that, is it not whether or not I necessarily loved the game, but more so on whether or not it was successful in what its aim and goals were as a game. And I don't feel that Final Fantasy 15 succeeded in what it was trying to be, or at least what it claimed it was, and that's my problem with the game. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a fun game. I don't regret my time with the game. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had here, but claiming that this is a game for fans and first-timers, for the lack of a better word, it's a fantasy. It's not. This game was designed almost entirely for first-timers. The entire game feels like this was intended and targeted for the Western audience. And I'm sure people are going to disagree with me on that, but the problem I have with this, and the reason why I say this, is because Final Fantasy fans are used to turn-based combat. They're used to having time to contemplate their next move and think about what they can do with their next turn and how to strategize and what's going to work best for defeating the enemy in front of them. It's about strategizing and planning your next move. And the 8 active time battle system from, Final Fantasy, 4 onward, more or less, it still had that, but it added a sense of urgency by giving you a timer before your next action that you could perform, and that the enemies had the same setup. So you knew that you had to, you couldn't take all the time in the world, but you had time to think before acting. And this game's entire combat system is based on reaction speed. In order to attack, you're just pressing and holding a single button, and you just hold it. And you have to actively defend by pressing another button at just the right moment. And that's never been what Final Fantasy is about. It's not about reaction time. It's about strategizing your move. And this game... So, it's a spin-off title. It started development as a spin-off title, as Final Fantasy Versus 13 in 2006. The game should not have been retrofitted into a main entry because you don't want to take big risks like that with the main entries in a series that's had huge followings like that. When you do that with a franchise that's been around for as long as Final Fantasy, you tend to alienate your core fan base when you try to appeal to a broader audience. Those fans that have been with you for however many years, in my case 20 years, are going to feel let down by the overall product when you're no longer appealing to them, when you're trying to appeal to everybody else. And that ultimately hurts the product as a whole. The game feels disjointed, and that's in no small part due to the fact that the director left the game and had someone else finish it. And that's so evident because of what happens, I believe it's Chapter 9. There's a point of no return. You get a mission, a side mission, and then you have to go through this point of no return. And you can only turn it in at the place before the point of no return. But once you hit that point of no return, the game fast forwards from, like, I think it goes from Chapter 9 to Chapter 15, and you're basically about to go fight the final boss. And the only way you can turn it in and do any other side quests that don't open up until this point, mind you, is to talk to your dog outside of a trailer, and he will ask if you want to go back in time to before the point of no return. And then you can turn in that quest. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's such an obvious cutaway point to where this is where the directors changed, and it didn't help the game, and that just makes me feel more disappointed by the overall product. So I guess what I'm ultimately getting at is the game, to me, failed at the one thing that it claims to be right when you put the game in, and that is really depressing. And the whole time I'm playing the game, because it sets that bar so high right away, I can't stop thinking about, is this a Final Fantasy game to me? It looks like a Final Fantasy game in terms of its art. It has the enemies that you would expect. A lot of classic enemies are in there. And there's segments where you can listen to music from all out the franchise in the Regalia when you're driving around. And there's even a couple of naming conventions that are, reminiscent to older games. Ignis, his namesake, is from the remake of Final Fantasy III on the DS. That's a really cool nod. The enemies are using Magitech technology. That's a really cool throwback to Final Fantasy VI. I mean, they even have a Dragoon, which is a throwback to Final Fantasy IV, which is, mind you, probably one of the best parts of the game, is some of its set pieces. Particularly with the fight with that said Dragoon. I mean, they use Magitech technology in her lands to propel her and make her do all these cool things, and it makes the combat system feel really engaging with that because you are fast moving, but it doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy game to me. It's not what I think of when I think Final Fantasy, and that's part of it. So much of this game in its play isn't fitted to what I expect from a core entry. If this had stayed a spin-off, I'd probably still do a normal review for it, but it didn't feel right to do a traditional review, at least traditional by my my layout. But yeah, because this game doesn't feel the way it should, and it fails for me so hard at what its prime goal was, I didn't feel that I should review it. So there you have it. Again, I think it's a fine and fun game, but I don't feel like it's a proper Final Fantasy main installment, and that's why I have canceled my review. Nobody knew I was doing that review necessarily, except if you ever watch me on Twitter, I would occasionally post saying that I'm getting footage for my review, or, writing more and editing more for my review. I mean, my review was going to be like 15, 20 minutes long almost, but it was just going to end up being me griping about how this doesn't feel like what it claims it's supposed to be. And it was really upsetting. I put a lot of work into it, and I just felt it's best not to finish it, because I wasn't going to be happy with the final product. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date with all of our latest videos, whether it be more vlogs such as this, pickup videos, let's plays, or reviews. Also, if you like this video, click the like button, and you might be interested in some of these other videos I've got here. One of them is popping up on screen. Feel free to click on that and watch that. Until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next video.